let's talk about the behavior of this component. If we were graphic designers, this was going to be perfect. This will be the final stage. As you know that designers or UI designers, they will handle this, they will hand over this to the developer. As a developer, it's cool when things are pretty, but you must be concerned with the behavior as well. We need to just think roughly as like we are planning or we are in the rough planning stage. We are trying to understand how this component is going to behave. Obviously, we are not going to get into details, but it's very important for us to understand how is it going to behave so that if there are some things that we don't really agree with the designer, we can negotiate and tell the designer that we are going to change some few things and we are going to make some minor tweaks. What are the reasons that might cause you to make some minor tweaks as a developer? Remember, designing and development are two different disciplines, are two different worlds. The principle of design, they are not exactly the same as the principle of development. The reason is the designer is seeking to achieve a certain goal and the developer is seeking to achieve a different goal. So some of the effects which are being applied by the designer might not necessarily be available in terms of the styling technology like CSS. Sometimes, as designers, since I'm also a designer as well, we become too imaginary and we come up with effects which are not really possible in development. So, that is why we have to, some sort of as developer, think about how is this component going to behave so that we can negotiate with the designer to or the client or the boss to say that if we do this, then this will be the drawback. If we do this, maybe we will sacrifice performance. So let's look at this component. Okay, so this is an item. I assume that this is going to form a list or it's going to be a part of a list of items. So this card is going to be part of a list. Okay. So you will see different items, maybe with different colors, but that one is not important for now. Let's check the behavior. What is the first event listener that is available here? Okay. Based on what I see, I might want to click on this item. And if I click on this item, what will happen? Okay. So by clicking here in this item, okay, it will add this item to cart. This event, okay, might seem like it doesn't affect this component. You might think that if then I click on this, then this will be added to the cart. Okay, so it looks like this event affects the cart than this component. But if you look at it, if we added this to the cart, don't we want to know in that long list of item? Don't you want to know as a user when you are scrolling to know that you have added this component to the cart? Why? If you don't know, you might add this item again. You might add this item again. Maybe another developer might be like, I think what we can do when you add it again, we can create an error that tells you that you are adding the same item twice. Well, that is a solution. But the reason for me to Hey guys, my apologies for disturbing. In case you didn't know, we've got a course at Udemy. If you are watching this on Coded Design, I also got another YouTube channel for teaching you Figma, and that channel is Coded UI. In case you want to be updated by everything that we do here at Coded Design, please check the link in the description below to our Substack newsletter. Thank you so much. I hope you are enjoying. Create this course was to help you to become a professional developer, to be efficient and write a clean and highly scalable and maintainable code. That error handling or that warning will be an unnecessary one because you can solve that problem by simply making some changes here to signify that this has been added to cart. Maybe we can change the color here and type here added to cart. Let's say we make it a red color, and then we put a cart item, or we write here added to cart. As you can see, it will prevent all the things. And when you clicking on added to cart, maybe it will take you to the cart page, or it will do nothing. That one will depend on us. But the most important thing that you must note here is that this event, though it seemed as if it's some sort of directly relating to a component that we are not developing or outside of our scope, but there is something that is tied back to this component. So when we click here, we need to indicate that this has been added to cart. We will see how we are going to do that on production. So these are the things that you need to negotiate with the designer or your boss or the client, to tell them that this is what I'm thinking. Why you must do this? Simply because the designer is concerned about the aesthetics, the look and feel, okay? Not exactly how this is going to behave. In most cases, as designers, we don't really know how these are going to behave, if I can be honest, okay? So let's continue. So we've got this. So when I click here, as you can see, these some sort of likes, or this is the statistics. So when I click here, this needs to update. It needs to send an information to the back end that somebody liked this or somebody loves this. So this event is tied to an action, okay? Maybe updating the stats in the back end, okay? So let's check here. So here, when I click here, this will increase. When I click here, this will decrease. So this is telling me that there is some sort of a state, okay? There is some sort of a state that will change, okay, based on the quantity. Okay, so as you can see, now the other thing that I'm asking myself is that when we are done with all of that, what happens? Okay, as much as we can say this is a component, okay, this component has got data, okay, data flows in and out of the component, okay, so meaning that this is data, okay, maybe from the database, this is data, this is data, this is data, this is data. What's the overall mission of this data? Why it's here? Some of it's here to communicate with the user, to tell you about the price and everything, so that it can show you the item. But when we are done, where are we taking this data? When we click here, as you can see, we need to have some sort of a variable, okay, which will be used, okay, by this component. As you can see, which will be used by this component. This component is going to be in a different page, let's say, but still it must be fed with the same data, okay. Obviously at this point in time, we're not going to think hard about it, but we are just roughly doing that 10% mental planning to see, are there any other things maybe that might lead us to having to change the user interface. If that is possible, then we need to communicate that upfront. Maybe in terms of being a professional in any industry, what does that mean? To look for things that might be a problem. That is being a professional, and it means that you are trying to manage expectation. Imagine speaking to a client and you agree with them on this UI, and then in your execution you come up with something different simply because Tailwind CSS or CSS as a technology is not capable of doing that. That means you didn't manage as a professional, you didn't manage the expectation. So you must be able to manage the expectation. I would like to close with this one with Murphy's Law. If anything can go wrong, it will go wrong. What does that mean? Think in such a way that you minimize everything that might go wrong. See you on the next one.